Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first lesson of the Su-25 tutorial series. First we start with a cockpit tour. It will be a rather quick tour because how the instrument works I will dive deeper into when that lesson comes. So this is just a broad overview of where the instruments are and roughly what they're used for. Ahead of you, in your field of vision, you have the HUD head-up display. This is not an ordinary HUD. It does not show navigation, speed, altitude and so. This is primarily only for the aiming paper. Over here, that is your velocity indicator, your speed indicator in kilometers per hour. The Russian aircraft use kilometers instead of imperial, metric measurements instead of imperial. So they use kilometers per hour as speed and meters as altitude, and kilometers as distance. Here you have the barometric altimeter, shows your altitude in barometric pressure. Here you have the radio altimeter, shows your altitude in above ground level, and the barometric shows your altitude mean sea level. The difference between those two I have a video about. I will link to that in description. Over here we have to the left we have the angle of attack meter, and on the right side of that dial we have the G meter. In the middle here we have the range indicator. Whenever you have selected a steer point, this will show the distance to the steer point in kilometers. Here you have the HSI, horizontal situational indicator. It shows the compass bearings and points toward your steer point and shows you how to follow the route. The difference between a steer point and waypoint is that if you have a route with 6 dots on it, each dot is a waypoint, but the point you're actually going to is a steer point. So waypoints are points on the way to the destination. The steer point is the point you are steering at. Here you have the ADI, attitude director indicator. It shows whether or not you're pointing up or you're pointing down. It does not show whether or not you're climbing or descending. And it also shows whether or not you are rolling to the left or to the right, and it shows some navigation aid for the ILS and for the ordinary navigation. Plus, in the bottom of it, it has the slip indicator. It shows whether or not you have a coordinated turn. More on that in a different lesson. Here you have the VVI or VSI, vertical velocity indicator. Some people call it the vertical speed indicator. This dial shows whether or not you're climbing or descending, and it shows it in meters per second. So if this dial is above 0, you're climbing. If it's below 0, you're descending. So this dial shows whether or not you're going up or down. This dial does not. This dial shows whether or not you're pointing up or down. Here we have a standard analog clock. You can use the flight clock button to start time recording of how long you have been flying. I don't think it has any function in the game, only for realism. In real time, the flight engineers and mechanics would use that to measure flight time on the airframe. Here you have the Mech meter. it does not show how fast you're flying. It shows how close to Mach 1 you are. And yes, there is a difference between showing how fast you're going and how close to Mach 1 you're going. This is why this dial is called the Mach meter and not speed indicator, velocity meter or anything. This is called Mach meter. That red dial on there, let's say when you're flying and you have enough velocity, white dial will show how close to Mach 1 you are. What this dial does, it shows you how close to Mach 1 you are. Let's say at that red dial, the white dial comes up and is at 0.8. This means that you are flying 0.8 of Mach 1. So you are flying 80% of Mach 1. How much that velocity is depends on air pressure, air density. So this does not show your speed. It shows how fast, how close to Mach 1 you are. This is, the manual calls it the tachometer. Tachometer counts how many revolutions you're taking. That is not true. This does not show how many revolutions you're taking, the engines are running at. This shows how close to 100% of maximum revolutions the engines are running at. So the 40 in the bottom is not 4,000 or 40,000 revolutions per minute. It's 40% of maximum revolutions. It's very important to understand the difference between those. Here you have not a thermometer, but a thermometer shows the temperature in your engines. As far as I know, it measures the temperature at the turbine inlet temperature. So just before the turbines. That is where the critical temperature is, because the turbine can handle a lot of heat, but only to a certain limit. So if your engine are on fire, you can see it here, because then they will go to the red. And as I say, if you fly in the red, you are very soon dead. Here we have the fuel meter, fuel gauge, and no, it does not show how much fuel you have in liters. Since this is Russia, and Russia used the metric system, it does not show how many gallons and it does not show how many pounds of fuel. It shows how many kilograms of fuel. So I believe the 100% of internal fuel is at 2,800 kilograms of fuel. That amounts to a bit over 3,000, I believe. So, no, a bit below that. 1 liter of aviation fuel does not weigh 1 kilogram. And if you believe that this shows how many liters it is, look at the bottom. It says times 1000 kg. The K and then the Cyrillic symbol for G, kilograms. Over here you have the warning, the annunciator or the warning panels. If anything is lit up, you're in trouble, except for the trim lights. Here we have the SPO 15 radar warning receiver, more on that later. Here you have the hydraulic pressure. If you get any battle damage and you see the hydraulic pressure go down, depending on your altitude and if you're preparing for emergency landing, get your gear out, because to release the gear you need hydraulic pressure. So Here you have the navigation panel, more on that in navigation lessons. Here, that aircraft symbol is the configuration indicator, and that shows whether or not you have air brakes deployed. The two pointy things above the wings is will lit up green if you have air brakes deployed, and the horizontal bars shows whether or not you have flaps deployed, flaps in maneuver / combat position, or full / landing flaps. And the three dots below it is showing if you have all three wheels down and locked. They will only turn on when the gear is down and locked. And remember, this does not show whether or not you actually have any tires on your landing gear. It shows the landing gear and not the tires. So if you have taken some battle damage, you lower your gear and think, yes, I got the gear, I can land now. No, there's no indication of that, because this shows whether or not the landing gear, not the wheels. You can land without wheels and you'll still have 3 greens. Here we have the bomb settings, release settings panel. This is where you set up amount of bombs and the interval between bomb drops. Here you have the weapon panel, that aircraft symbol with 2 rows of lights under it. The top light will lit green, will lit yellow if you have any ordnance on it. If you drop a bomb and that pylon is empty, that light will go out. The line below it will lit green for the ordnance you have selected. So each time you switch weapons, that light will move on the wing. So you always know which pylon you have selected. And just to the right of it, you have the indicators for whether or not you have bombs, rockets, or guided bombs selected. And below that, where there is a K, that K shows 100% ammunition for the cannon. 1/2 shows half, 1/4 shows quarter, and a zebra striped one, just like the one above it, shows empty. So this is a roughly or a fast cockpit overview. Oh, and just about the flight deck here. From the top left, oh, I do not remember what the top left is. But the middle one, the head in the middle, is for trimming. The top right is for turning the laser on and off, and the head in the lower left is for moving the laser, the aiming pipper, and that slider in the middle is slide it down, add to ground mode, slide it up, missile mode. So I believe that's it for the first lesson cockpit tour in the Su-25. Thank you.